Fishing was a very solitary activity that they did either for fun or to get their food. That was the argument they were making.
We are well aware by now of a lot of things happening on the coronavirus front. And one of the things that happened recently was Governor Jay Inslee relaxed some of the restrictions on outdoor recreation and fishing. Those would eventually sunset on May 5th. And you talked a little bit with people at a rally or a protest, however you want to say it, for fishing in Spokane recently. What are some of the things that you heard?
Well, it was pretty interesting. I went to two protests or rallies that day, and the second one was the Let Us Fish rally. And right when I showed up, I ran into the organizer of the event. Of course, we stayed 6 feet from each other, but her name was Tara Altman. She lives up in Stevens County, which she says she needs to fish because she doesn't go to the grocery store a lot. And as she told me, she needs 30% of her freezer to be filled with fish by the end of the year. If she wasn't allowed to fish, she's not allowed to get her food. And, I asked her if she agreed with most of what the governor has put into place. She generally agreed that we should keep socially distant, but she didn't think the fishing rules made any sense. And as I walked around and talked to people, it became clear that a lot of these people, they weren't really from Spokane. They lived in the woods around Spokane, and fishing was a very solitary activity that they did either for fun or to get their food. That was the argument they were making is, we do this alone. We're not around anybody. It just didn't make any sense to them. And that's why they were out there that day with their fishing poles very far from any bodies of water.
Well, we'll note that other rallies, and you attended another one of those in Spokane, there's been many others around the state and in all regions, talked about more than just fishing, namely, ending some of the larger lockdowns, getting the state back to work, ending the hits on the economy and those sorts of things. And a lot of Governor Inslee's opponents, both normally just political opponents and opponents for governor, have been at some of those rallies, and you've reported on some of that and what they've been saying. I wonder about notably Tim Ayman, for example, a name in the state that many people know for his anti-tax initiatives, also running for governor as a Republican. He was at one in Spokane that you were at, and it kind of looked a little bit like it could just really be a Tim Ayman campaign event, even though campaigning isn't really going on in person because of the measures. So was it as much a Tim Ayman campaign event as much as it really was about lockdown measures?
Definitely. I would say it was more of a Tim Ayman event than it was about lockdown. Ostensibly, it was about end the lockdown, pushing back against Governor Inslee's measures to combat coronavirus. And when I first showed up to that, there was no social distancing going on. So I kept my distance. I kept across the street. So I wasn't able to talk to anybody. I just kind of read their signs and listened to what they were saying. But most of the signs, I would say 3/4 of the signs were Tim Ayman for governor. Tim Ayman was there. He was wearing blue gloves, but he was also shaking a lot of hands with those gloves and patting a lot of people on the back and handing out stickers and handing out more signs. He didn't organize the event, but he definitely came to town to make hay out of it. And it quickly turned into something that was very politically oriented. Representative Matt Shea was there. He is, of course, a Spokane Valley legislator who has made a lot of news for being involved in people in the readout community and, maybe penning the biblical basis for war. He's just a very fringe sort of politician. He was there shaking hands as well. Facebook living to get out to his people. So it really turned into a very anti-Jay Inslee and I don't know what you'd call it, but pro ending the lockdown. And I think both of them have called Jay Inslee a dictator, if that gives you any indication of how they feel about what's going on.
You can see more of Nick's reporting on these and other topics at nwpb.org. Thank you for joining us, and stay safe, stay healthy, stay home out there in the unique Northwest.